Hello and welcome to JagaVision, episode 21. We're going to be drinking some Maccha Okumidori by Yamaguchi today. It should be good times. We're going to have Ryan Moen joining us from the International Tea Appreciation Society. He's co-director with myself of the Victoria Tea Festival Revival. It's in its 5th year this year. That's had to been postponed twice due to the pandemic. And we're going to be having some talks about the festival and how it's going to look this year. So stay tuned for that. I'm Jared Nyberg, co-owner of JagaSilk. I often don't introduce myself, it would appear, so here I am. Been running this company with my wife for the past 15 years. Pretty amazing amount of time, but I guess some have been doing this for decades and decades and decades. So still feel like we just entered the tea industry. Sometimes. So we should be having our guests on at 1:20. We'll be drinking some tea before that. I really wanted to try out this organic tencha that I got from the from our friends at the Harimayan estate. We used to work with Harimayan quite exclusively for a long time. And we really appreciate what they do, but we were just having a hard time understanding, I guess, the direction that they were going in terms of flavor. And part of me wonders if that was just was that just a gradual drop in quality, or was that just me changing my opinion of what I really enjoyed. Smells really good though. They sent us this year's samples. Gonna get some really hot water. Give me a sec. Okay. Let's see what happens here. So I'm gonna do about 150 grams over 5 grams. See what happens. If you're watching this on Twitch, you can catch archived episodes in our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're also more than welcome to join us in the chat room. We have the stream chat read only. I can kind of engage with you on both platforms if you're checking it out. So please do. Let me see what's going on here. Looks like okay. I'm gonna try and get Twitch going too. So this is our second stream that we're doing over on our Twitch channel, which you can find at twitch.tv/JagaSilk. So we're experimenting with multi-streaming, as it were. We have people watching us on our YouTube and our Twitch, so pretty exciting times. It smells like chocolate. This is the tencha. So just for those of you who don't know, tencha is matcha before it's milled. So what I wanted to do is we have this unique opportunity at JagaSilk where we get to mill the matcha here on our mill that we bought in Japan almost 2 years ago. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mill it actually right into the chawan. It's going to be a little loud, so pardon the loudness. See how that goes. And while that's milling away, I'm going to drink this. So I'll just pour this fella into a gray water. Okay, so tencha is the deveined, destemmed tea leaves before they get milled into matcha. When you're cupping them, though, it's a good idea to taste them in their sort of loose leaf tea form. Most sencha goes to a sencha factory, and that sencha factory is going to essentially roll your tea leaves into needles after they've been sort of mashed up to release that propyl oxidase enzyme. Oh, it's looking really good. Okay, so that's our sample. Smells good. Smells really nice in the cup here. That's very exciting. It's kind of a new thing for us, which is doing what you should always have done all along, or what we should have done all along, which is to cup the tencha. So this is the leaves. They didn't go to a sencha factory, they went to a tencha factory. They were dried flat instead of rolled into needles, so that they can then be deveined and destemmed. So my issue with the Harimayan selections has always been that they're too sour. But that's tasting really nice. There's a little bit of tannin coming through, which is fine. Let's see how this tastes in the bowl. So just gonna grab myself a matcha jawan. Gonna give it a little bit of a preheat. I'm gonna empty that into my gray water. Going to get a sieve going. I'm going to weigh out 2 grams from this matcha that I milled. Asking a lot for 2 grams. So let's see. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do with 1.3. What I'll do is I'll go old school and use a hishaku. One of the nice things about these fellow kettles is that we can fit the hishaku in them, so it's kind of fun. It's always fun to use the bamboo hishaku. And 1.3 grams to 60 is like 2 grams to 90. There we go. So let's see how this tastes. So this is a komakage and yabukita. Two komakage we've never had outside of the Harimayan selections, so never really been able to have it as a single and understand it. But more recently, we've cupped the Yamaguchi stuff that we have today, and he's from a very similar region. He's actually from the same micro-region in Kyoto. He's from Ujitawara. And I was tasting some similar characteristics in his tea, and I wonder if this kind of, I keep calling it sourness, is the terroir of the region, or if it has something to do with the tencha factory that he would be bringing it to. Is it a style? Tastes pretty good. There's a little bit of umami in there. You know, that's been kind of my concern in previous years, is that when I've been drinking the Harimayan selections, I haven't been getting any umami. And I find that that's an important part, at least a little bit of a presence of umami is an important part of enjoying these selections from from Japan. Your Japanese greens are going to be that much more interesting when there's at least umami, a little bit of umami as part of the flavor structure. I can work with that. That's interesting. Okay, there is a little bit of, you know, when I was cupping this morning some fukada, it's like an Okumidori fukada by Fujioka. No, it was actually some Okumidori Okuda. It was amazing, and that's in our competition grade selections. But yesterday and the day before, I was cupping some other tenchas, and none of them were giving me any astringency in the tencha. And I was starting to think that maybe it's just not something that you perceive in tencha, that tencha is just not delivering acidity and bitters in the same way. But I am getting tannin in the tencha for this. Is that a sign of a lower grade? I don't know. This is sold to me as one of their highest grade for organic, and it's really hard to get beautiful organic tea. We try very hard. I think that if you're in very high elevations, where there's less opportunity for the bugs that really damage your fields to do damage, you're going to be okay. But when we're talking Japanese teas, we're talking 300, 400 meters above sea level. It's not that high in terms of tea growing regions. There is rampant use of pesticides. And so we're constantly working with farmers to curb their use of pesticides and get them to a place where they're like, Takaki's made some beautiful selections for us where he doesn't spray at all and he sells it all to us. We said, look, you know, like, we'd really like you to do this for us, for everybody really, for your children even, you know, like, have some land that you don't spray at all, and really encouraging this direction. And he's been receptive. Wasn't at first. I think that most are really afraid that they're going to lose their livelihood. Sorry, there's an issue with one of my cameras. And so a little bit of our conversation is about encouraging them to understand that they don't have to lose their livelihood by not spraying, because we're going to guarantee that they're going to have revenue from their product, even if it doesn't taste like the most amazing. I think many of us value the cleanliness more than it being this perfect competition grade matcha. And so, yeah, maybe Jaga Silk selections, some of them are like, they are lightly sprayed, but some of them are not, and we try to go in that direction whenever we possibly can. Fujioka doesn't spray unless he has to, and he hasn't in a good 4 years. So we're just trying to keep that really transparent. But anyway, the journey of trying to encourage farmers to not spray, to encourage farmers to get us clean teas, it's a constant journey, and it's a fascinating one. Pardon me, just setting things up. Ryan, have you joined us just now? Hello? Ryan? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Hi, how's it going? Welcome to JagaVision.
Going good. Thank you. It was a hidden cryptic thing in our test call.
Oh, was it?
It was.
Like, did it come as a
It did not come.
Really? Interesting.
Indeed.
You know, I'm having an issue with that. I guess maybe the scheduling function of the email just doesn't want to do it. Because last week I had a similar thing, you know. So I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
It's all good. We're both here. It's a beautiful day. We can celebrate.
It says okay. I wonder if it came now, because I had the email open, and that might have caused the problem. Well,
let me look. All right, 118, which means I did just get it. New.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. So it was just.
But it is interesting to know that it's the same link, like, because obviously I'm live with you right now.
Yeah. No, you totally are. It is the same link. Yeah, that was it was from the same call. Cool. I'm glad we figured it out. Well, welcome to JagaVision. Ryan Moen, everybody. Ryan is co-director of the Victoria Tea Festival Revival with myself. He's also co-founder. We're in our 5th year of the Tea Festival Revival. It's been pretty intense. Ryan is also quite the activist. He's a healer. He's a community builder, enthusiast extraordinaire. Lots going on in Ryan's life, and huge appreciation that you're able to make the time to come on the show today. Really. Really
No, thank you
grateful.
for having me. I mean, as much as I love people, I love little spaces and places and times where we can meet those people, and tea is perfect for that.
Awesome, cool. Big agreement there. And when Ryan came into Jaga Silk 6 odd years ago, he said, "Hey, there should be a tea festival." And I said to him, "There was a tea festival, but it ended because they couldn't find enough tea merchants. The audience was there, but we just didn't have the it wasn't engaging the merchants in a way that made them feel that they wanted to come back. So we've been building this festival where it takes both elements into consideration. And Ryan, really, you wanted to bring there's a mental health issue where we get into the dark, dreary, drizzly times here on the West Coast, and it can make people kind of closet themselves and not really engage. And you really wanted an opportunity for celebrating that weather. You want to talk on that for a moment, maybe? And
Yeah, I think, yeah, SAD, so seasonal affectation disorder, is something that West Coasters deal with. Everybody thinks just because we don't have snow that we have it better off in the winter. But as far as mental health, the lack of sun really hits us hard. And so that can slow us down. That can start to see social opportunities being neglected, and probably something that's parallel to what we're dealing with right now as a globe, that we don't have the opportunities to be around each other, and we're very social creatures. So
yeah,
I really wanted to make sure that there was a celebration that could hold that space. And I don't think that there's been ever anything crafted so perfectly as tea for that. And that's where I came into seeking the wisdom of Jared, as far as a trove of local knowledge. It was just there, and he was happy to share. So yeah, the aspect of winter being challenging was at 5 years ago our biggest kind of mental health aspect, and now we're all dealing with it. We're all dealing with the new social constraints that require these kind of spaces.
so we're sharing that. I guess that space for sure worldwide. This idea of the lockdown, this idea of not being able to socially engage, and how do we interact with that? How do we keep ourselves whole? How do we find these spaces, right? And I think really what's happened with the tea festival, where it was postponed in March, literally a week before it was supposed to happen, when the pandemic just seemed to be starting to go out of. I'm really glad we made that decision. I at the time I remember just being really not knowing what the right answer was, and I think in hindsight that was definitely the right answer, to not go forward with a festival that could have seen over 1,000 attendees.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Everything was unknown. It wasn't like we were thirsty to make it happen. It was just that we'd obviously put a lot of momentum, and the years of kind of curated an outcome, which to us was a date, which was a week away from for those of us that weren't aware of the date and how it all kind of correlates, is that our provincial health officer did require any, I think it was over 50 gatherings
Yeah.
to be canceled, and that was us. That was within our realm. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't just a personal choice that we made. We're still kind of up in the air. I'm always more of the the cautious one
Yeah.
who's looking ahead.
Yeah.
But it was really simple. Once it was black and white and offered to us by our health officer, it really wasn't a choice. It was just a matter of how the future looks with it.
Yeah, 100%. I remember seeing the word banned. That the groups of 50 or more would be banned, and that was really wild. I think this is. Yeah, I can. It's interesting. I can see the. Hold on one second. I'd never seen them say like this. This is something that you can't go forward with, right? Like that was really shocking to me. To be told like 100% like you're not allowed to do this, and I just remember looking at that and going, wow. To be told that I'm banned from a gathering, just I don't know why that just shocked me, but I think maybe it drove the seriousness home. Like that kind of language you don't normally see in a country where freedom of assembly is a guaranteed right. And then of course that's why we have these quarantine acts. That's why we have the protections that we do and the laws that we do to protect people during a pandemic, right? So anyway, it made the seriousness come for me, and and to kind of like link that into what we're talking about, to have this festival delayed to the summer, always felt a little bit like, I don't know if it's gonna work. But it, and now here we are again delaying it to the winter, and now it feels more right somehow in a weird way, So for the viewers, I want you to know that through some discussion and some just discussing where we should take the festival, we've decided to take it online. And maybe you, Ryan, you want to tell them a little bit about what we're planning? Or shall I go into it? Oh, did I lose you? Oh, looks like we lost you. Interesting. Hello? Ryan? Oh, did you mute me? Mute yourself?
Every time
there you are.
You'll see me popping up and down because I've yet to upgrade into the new world because I'm still doing paper and phone calls right now. So every time I correct this old janky mic, it just goes to mute. So you'll have to apologize. Accept my apologies for that.
Fair.
Yeah, as far as the future goes, so one of us is up to technology, as you can tell, and it's not me. And so Jared's been able to kind of start to curate this space online and the deliverables of ceremony online and the information and sharing space. And so as that became super strong, it's started to create a little bit of a gravity towards, well, there's this new cyberspace, there's this new place that we can all come together, and tea still can be done at home. It can still be done as long as you can boil water and share space, or just even listen. Mm-hmm. You can be holding that same ceremony that we were trying to offer over the last 4 years. And so Jared proposed it. He just said, hey, I've got this platform. I've kind of looked at some of the kinks, but you can see obviously people like me are always throwing curveballs as far as challenges. And yeah, we're learning, but we're going to go online. It's the space and the place for it. We're giving ourselves enough time to make sure that we can make sure everybody, including myself, have the gear and the setup, and we understand what kind of faults are going to happen with the back end of not the firmware, but the just the software and stuff. And we're going to be able to offer something going for some length. And I know Jared's been dreaming about this all day, so I'd love it if you want to continue on with that, because I'm introducing it. We're having it. Yeah. It's happening this winter, and it's going to be online.
And it's going to be November 23rd, if I remember correctly. We're going to be having it on a Monday. And I remember saying, hey, maybe we can't get together as a community where we have 50 plus people mingling with each other in the middle of a pandemic. But the symposium element, this idea of sharing education and having this opportunity to learn, take deep dives, just basically kind of like a massively extended version of what we're trying to accomplish here on JagaVision, might be an opportunity. And then Ryan, you suggested, hey, if there's that much material out there, wouldn't it be interesting to make it 24 hours? So we're going to do that. We're going to do a 24-hour tea symposium extravaganza, and we're going to have tea farmers from around the globe on the show. We're going to have tea industry folks from around the world on the show. It's obviously going to be through networks and connections that we currently have, but we're going to try and broaden that scope as much as we can and try to make it a comfortable time for people in different time zones around the world, and see what we come away with in terms of a festival. We already have some suggestions from some of the people that were going to be at the show when it was going to be in person, some farmers they'd like to bring on the show. So we have already some people that we plan on bringing on from South Korea, from Japan, from India, and I imagine we'll get many more moving forward. So I'm excited. November 23rd. You can check out details on the Facebook page, Victoria Tea Festival Revival. You can plug that into Facebook. It's also on Instagram. If you look in the tweet for this episode, I think I put it in. It's at Victoria Tea Fest Revival. That's the Instagram and the Twitter, I believe. So yeah, that's where we'll be posting information, is on Facebook, etc. But anyway, really excited to make it happen, man. Yeah, we're just again navigating this pandemic and navigating these ideas. Like And what's also interesting is that this platform of JagaVision is kind of providing a way for us to what is it? Not screen, but like work out some of these kinks that you were talking about. You were saying like I'm tech savvy. No. You didn't watch early episodes of JagaVision where I did like I did an entire 20 minutes in mute. I mimed my way through episode 1, I think, or episode 2 or 3. I can't even remember, but like the entire opening was silent. I think I had to cut that opening off of the archive version on YouTube because everybody was
that was kind of you.
They're like, I couldn't get the volume to work. Neither could I, apparently. So no.
And I have my computer hodgepodged up on a couple of erasers so it doesn't slide off a bunch of stack stools and things like that. And maybe we'll move into tripods and things like that and make sure that it can last the full 24 hours without somebody getting electrocuted.
That totally makes sense.
That's our goal.
I'm gonna.
It's 2020's goal.
That's 2021 is gonna be amazing. 2020 is interesting challenges. I'm gonna try and call Sherry-Ann, our other guest, and see what's going on. She should have been joining us. I know she's driving. She might not be at an internet connection. In the meantime, Ryan, can you just tell our audience a little bit about just what you're working with today? We went over the tools, and then I'll explain to them what I'm going to be working with in terms of making this tencha that we're going to be making together.
That's perfect. I also just want to echo again the transition online. We do most of our communications online. So when you do get a hold of us at the Facebook page, you look up the Tea Appreciation Society, the International Tea Appreciation Society. We'll get like any information we can to you as soon as we can. We've been communicating with people to make sure you're up to date with those kind of times and spaces and places so that you don't miss out this year, because we want to make sure that we're here for you. But I think we're starting to gander here, just even by my little hodgepodge setup, that I'm the layperson. I bring the curiosity, and Jared brings expertise. So for today, what I've brought is essentially the layperson's tea set. We have right here just a teapot, which we're not going to be using because Jared's actually just informed me about the motion of tea when it's loose in a kind of in a confined space doesn't work so well. So what I'm going to be cheating with is I'm just going to be using this as my sieve because I don't have a proper cooking sieve. So I'm just going to be extracting that and then just placing this teapot off to the side. As well, when water's boiled right to its maximum, it's a little too hot for the tea leaves. So we're actually going to be using the conduction of glass to help us with that. So the glass itself will absorb a bit of the heat. And if we can get multiple glasses, just for myself, I'm just using some simple mason jars. That'll actually reduce the heat from being harmful. And as far as measurements go, like if you're making it properly and you had yourself a tea shop, you'd have a scale. But what we'll be using is just your household teaspoons. For myself, I'll make sure I have the teaspoon. Oh, I already did. The teaspoon out. And as far as measurements, I just went right to my mason jar, making sure that if you're measuring a cup, that's set up for you with your 8 ounces. And really a mason jar is about as good as it needs to be when it comes to getting a rough estimate of how much liquid you're going to be using. And then because of the gift of being friends with the lovely tea people and tea community, I do have some of the nicer stuff. So I do have the whisk. Voila. And this is going to be for our green tea, as well as I believe it's chawan.
Yeah, it's a matcha jawan or a chawan.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Awesome. Thank you again for the gift. And last but not least are the stars of the show. So this is going to be the fun thing, is figuring out how we can get. Well, hopefully they don't smell because they're airtight.
Hopefully not. Yeah, no, this is definitely our
very aromatic tinfoil. So yeah, we'll be figuring out how we can share the tea experience with everybody. This was easy because Jared and I both live in the same town. So it was just a matter of me just walking the dog down to the shop and picking these up. But we're hoping when it comes to the tea festival that we'll be able to kind of curate an at-home experience. So that'll probably just be as simple as teaming up with the people that we expect to have on, so our guests, and then providing some sort of links to the access of their products and such. Because As much as we love to put together a big package, that'd be a lot of mailing to us, then mailing out, and then making sure people's packages arrive during a time when packages aren't arriving, or they're arriving a month or two late. So
Exactly. So
that's going to be a little conversation, maybe not a little one, a few conversations to tut that out. But for today, mine was simple because we're all in the same little township.
Yeah. I just wanted to thank you very much, Ryan. That's a excellently detailed version of your space there. I think that's gonna give the audience at home an idea of what they could also put together. I'm also gonna work with a jar today. These ball jars are really cool because they have actually the measurements on the side. So if you can find yourself a ball mason jar, it actually shows you the milliliters on the side, which is lovely.
Oh, millimeters! I just have this cat with this is old school Atlas, has
nice
ounces.
Amazing. That's all we need. Okay. So we're just gonna move ahead. Normally Sister Speak would be joining us. She is in the car today. She's trying to make sure that she can chime in somehow. I have reissued the invite to her. I've also done a live invite. We may not get her on the show just because of the challenges of trying to do that while moving. If she does come on, it's going to be intermittent, so she may be able to join us for bits and then not for others. So, but we'll see how that goes. For now, if you want to grab your jar and empty. One of them says tencha, right? So I want you to grab the tencha and I want you to put it into the jar. Before you put it in the jar, you probably want to preheat the jar. So preheat the jar. Get your water boiling.
It's been boiled.
If you can get it, it's been how long has it been off boil? You lose about.
I just ran onto camera from the stovetop.
Amazing. Okay, great. Yeah, because it's about
somewhat amazing.
I'm into this. Okay, so what we have first is the tencha, and I was explaining to the audience before you came on the show that tencha is deveined and destemmed Camellia sinensis leaves, okay, that are meant for matcha preparation. And when a tea company is going to choose their next matcha, they're going to want to look at what it tastes like as a tencha. It's an important part of understanding the different flavor dynamics that are possible in a tea. So while we're talking about the tea festival a bit here, figured it'd be a good idea to have a tea. So this is the one we're going to do. So this is Yamaguchi. He's a young guy. We just started working with him this year. He has a micro lot of tea that he's converted into tencha. And as far as we understand, this is his only tencha.
Beautiful.
Single cultivar Okumidori from Ujitawara.
Now this package is marked at 20 grams, correct?
That's the matcha. I want you to grab the tencha. And if the tencha says 20 grams, it's lying to you. It's supposed to say 5 grams.
You know what? The tricky thing, I have Okumidori.
Mm-hmm.
That's the matcha, correct?
Well, they should both. The tencha is like whited out because we don't actually have tencha as an official product. So above the word Okumidori, it's a single estate, and then
gotcha.
You got it? Okay, awesome.
I do. It was just it is the whiteout one.
Okay, that's the one we're opening. Beautiful.
All right.
Okay, so that one I want you to throw into your jar.
The whole thing.
The whole thing, 5 grams. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel bougie right now. I feel like I'm gonna get the full tea experience.
Bougie, love it. Okay.
Ooh, I'm living life.
So you stick your nose right in there, and you start smelling some aromatics, and it's pretty lovely stuff. So this is deveined, destemmed tea. This is gonna go through the mill. I was milling some tea before you came on the show too. I was trying out some of the Harima family's matcha. But anyways, you smell anything in there? We got any aromatics we're smelling?
For me, it's always just like, I want to say it's a very earthy, but it's
picking up on like some sort of like cooked vegetable. Like it smells like a toasted something, like maybe like a light chocolate or something, you know?
Like it smells like autumn. Like you can smell like there's a slight sweetness because it's not completely deprived of its kind of its green and its love.
Because to make a green tea, I don't know if people watching know this, but that PPO enzyme that normally browns the leaf and turns it into oolongs or crimson tea is arrested or frozen in time when you want to make a green tea fairly early after you harvest, like within 23 hours. And that's what keeps it green. It's kind of like when you blanch your kale, or when you like really, you kind of lock that greenness in. But if you were to like harvest it and kind of let it hang out, it's going to wither and it's going to change in color, especially if you mash it. Like if you break the cell walls a bit, you're gonna encourage that enzymatic oxidation. It's when you cut an apple and it browns, there's a flavor change that happens. It's a very similar process. So that's when you're making your oolongs, or this is like the crisp apple
Absolutely.
that you've preserved. So yeah, I'm pretty into that. Normally with green tea, you really want to be careful with your temperature. If it's parched, a lot of Chinese green teas are parched. You want to use it more like 80 degrees centigrade. With your Japanese greens, especially the more delicate ones, it makes more sense to use something like 65 degrees centigrade, 70 degrees centigrade max.
And what makes it more delicate? That's an interesting term.
Generally, it's part of it is the process. By steaming it, you're producing a little bit more of a delicate leaf. But more than that, it's going to be, well, a combination of that and the fact that it's really young leaves. And they're very fragile. You can actually break them apart with your fingers fairly easily.
So like actual molecular composition, because it's going to be freer, that the volatility of the water doesn't have to interact with it too much then?
Well, see, what's going to happen is it's so easy for you to extract everything right away that you got to turn into a compound curator. You don't want to curate these acidic, bitter, astringent compounds that you would be curating if you use boiling water. Instead, you want to curate the umami, the richness, the creaminess. You want to actually purposefully reduce the scope of flavor possibility to one that you know is going to taste awesome. And you accomplish that by using a lower water temperature. Does that make sense?
This does make sense. Yeah, 100%.
But what we're doing right now is we're cupping it. So I've asked you to boil your water, and that's what we're going to throw onto this tencha. We want to like blow it apart. We want to taste for flaws. This is what a cupping is in the world of tencha. Is we want to make it taste horrible if we can, so that we can understand the flavor potential. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because then it gives us any of the hiddens, correct? Like
that's right. We're going to taste flaws if they're there.
Wow.
Yeah. So why don't we just throw some boiling water on this guy? We're going to take it to 150 grams, which is a little over half a cup. So a little over 4 ounces. You're going to be like 5 ounces if you got it that much. I just want to throw it right on the leaves. Ideally, fresh boil is ideal. You lose about, I talked for so long there that you probably are working with more like 80 degrees.
I can just go for the splash there, Jared?
Your jar there, is that has the ounce measurements on it that we're making this in?
It does, correct.
Then take it up just past half a cup.
Oh, I got it past half a cup.
Awesome.
I got my 5 ounces.
Excellent. Okay, we got this. And I have a timer kind of going up, and then what I do is as I'm working with it, this isn't an official cupping set. This is probably obvious, but when we
should I have mixed already, sir?
Should you have which?
Should I pop the hot water in?
Oh, I'm sorry. You should put it directly onto the tea, right out of the boiling water pot. So I might be confusing the issue here, as we're going to be doing 2 teas. One of them we want to be really careful about the water temperature and get it fairly low. The one we're brewing right now, though, we want it as hot as possible. So ideally, right out of the pot, right onto the leaves. But I think I'm
hot pot right into it. Let us know what the dirty details are about it.
So yeah, 100 degrees ideal. So yeah, Okumidori. This is from a region in Kyoto Prefecture called Ujitawara, and it's one of the biggest producers of tea in the region. And Ujicha is nationally renowned in Japan as kind of like the sort of classic tea production region. And then this is from a young guy, Yamaguchi, who's really trying to put forward that tea is possible to make good with no pesticides. as long as you're comfortable with there being flaws, and that those flaws can be reinterpreted as flavor complexity. So that's where he's at. He's like, hey, I don't need to perfectly create this tea in a way that is abnormal and artificial. Like, sorry, it is normal to do it with pesticides, so abnormal isn't the right word. I don't need to do an artificial flavor creation. I should allow for damage if that's what needed to happen. I should allow for bug bites if that's what needed to happen. I'll just do my best to avoid them as much as I can. And I'll put a lot of effort into building good soil structure, into harvesting things carefully so that I'm doing minimal damage there, controlling for frost.
It seems really interesting because it seems to me like almost like a storyline, like where like ideally you want to harvest just the apex before everything kind of wraps up, but in this we're getting the whole synopsis, which kind of gets the stumbling through the lines and things like that. Mm-hmm. I was curious though, like with the pests, is there like a signature note that you find
when
like
when it is sprayed or when it's not sprayed?
When it's not sprayed, like what do bugged out little leaves taste like?
Oftentimes they're just going to be a lot more sour, astringent. You're going to have more bitters. You're just not going to get the really beautiful young leaves because the bugs love the same leaves the humans do. So you're just going to find that you don't get as much brothiness. There's not as much umami, this kind of background flavor note. That's the reason why we put bones into soup or use fish stock, etc. That background stock note, it disintegrates. You don't have that present.
Just because I know, like with trees and such, like when they're being attacked by bugs, they'll create tannins, they'll create defense mechanisms because they're very sentient beings, and obviously the tea plant is as well. So I was curious what the taste of its defense mechanism tastes like.
Yeah, it's going to create those tannins as a defense mechanism for sure. Can you strain your tea? Sorry, I forgot to. I was trying to show and tell. Just pour through into the teapot. Oh, nice. Nicely done. How did you do that? Oh, very cool. Okay, I like that. That's a good technique there. That was... Okay. That's... So what did you do? You just put the sieve into the cup? And then you...
Well, I was just lucky enough that this exactly fits a shallow mouth mason jar. Not a wide mouth one, but...
Nice. Very cool. So repurposing that sieve that's inside your teapot there. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so yeah, I believe that is what is happening, is that the plants, when they're attacked by the bugs, are not only are the bugs eating the stuff that we really like, but they're also, as part of the defense mechanism for the plant, creating a less desirable flavor. And how they do that is by releasing bitters and astringents into the leaves to make the bugs go away.
And is it observed more bitter or sour?
It's a good question. I find that the conversation generally is going to be talking about bitters. I personally taste more sour. I personally taste more astringency. Astringency does come up when we talk about it, but people talk about bitters that aren't as prevalent for me. Maybe that's what they mean by... Maybe I'm just... I don't know. Let's taste it together. Tell me if you're tasting a lot of bitters. Like that tastes pretty strong to me, but I'm not tasting like incredible amount of... There's almost like an alcohol quality to it.
I feel it just around the rim or the edges of my tongue. I feel like a kind of a tantalizing peak of that bitter. Like, I guess bitter, because I mean that's the essence of the taste bud that we're kind of talking about.
And maybe that's it. That's what but it's not like overwhelming, right? It's just kind of like it's
not at all.
It's like, hey, I still have umami. That's what I was actually really impressed by this guy when I was drinking his tea. I was
like, it's beautiful.
This is what I was thinking is. Yeah, and you can. I mean, we might as well. I kind of want to taste the tencha and the matcha while they're both available. I don't want to drink all the tencha right away. So, figure we could make some matcha like straight away and be talking about them both as we go. Does that sound like a plan to you?
You can try and talk me through it. That's
Okay,
great.
Okay, all right. Let's do this. Let's do this, man. All right. So, for me, I have to severely reduce my water temperature here. For you, you want as many, basically, boil that water back to where it's a rolling boil, and then you need 4 vessel transfers. And one of those vessel transfers, it's good if it's the bowl, because you can then preheat the bowl. Do you have another mason jar that has a measurement on it?
This one is free, and it has the I've transferred out my used tea to free up the Atlas mason jar with the ounces.
Excellent. Okay, so why don't we use that to measure with? Since it's hot, it's not going to work as a cooling vessel because we already used it to brew with. But what you can do is you can
Well, thermodynamics would argue otherwise because it's still 20 degrees compared to 90.
yeah, fair. You're being
Sorry,
difficult.
Right now, I have a final exam on Tuesday. That would not be a correct answer.
No, it wouldn't. No. That's funny. You know, it's not gonna. Let me rephrase then. It's not going to be as useful when it has a hotter. When you've used it already to brew with or to cool down some water. It will still cool down the water a little bit, but not as aggressively as we need it to for this process.
And I'm just giving you a hard time because I only have physics and a bit of phyto love, but the tea.
And you're Ryan, you have to do it. I think it's part of
stir it up. How much of this
being
somewhat boiled water should I put in this Atlas?
You're gonna go for 3 ounces, so
3
a
ounces.
little less than half a cup. And then if you had a dry coarse sieve, then you would push a leveled off teaspoon through the said dry sieve, which is what I'm going to do. But if you don't
Of the matcha.
Of the matcha. And if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. It's just going to be a little bit harder to whisk, and you may find that you get a little bit more clumps as a result. So I'm going to
We should use the term end of the world.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it seems so maybe misused here. Hey, we're post-apocalyptic matcha making right now. Here it is.
Oh, that's a good way of looking at it.
Or are we mid-apocalyptic? Is that what this? Or are we always mid-apocalyptic?
Whoa, this is where I wanted it to go. Where are we in time?
Where are we in time? Are we mid-apocalyptic?
Should I do another transfer?
Maybe. Yeah, you should take it. Your goal is to get it to 70, and each time you put that water into a room temperature vessel, it's going to drop roughly 10 degrees centigrade. I think one of those vessels should be your bowl, because you can use your bowl as a bowl for to preheat the bowl, right? If you haven't put the matcha in already.
And then I'm going to use the bowl because I'm actually not going to do the third transfer just because I don't believe that this was the appropriate temperature here.
Okay.
So I'm going to guess that was a 10 degree drop, 10 degree.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
this will be a little bit lower than ideal, but we also remember that this one didn't count.
Okay. There you go. It was as if it didn't exist. It's amazing.
It didn't exist.
It was
in our quantum mid-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to snag my teaspoon.
Yeah.
And is it correct that I'm just going to add a teaspoon of unfortunately unsieved but gently procured matcha to my chawan or bowl?
Yes, you are, and you're gonna kind of level it off. Did we give you a tin with your
Did I what?
Did I give you a tin?
There is not a tin.
Okay. You can paper clip that closed, elastic it closed when you're done, but matcha oxidizes so fast, it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, we have to remember that heat sources come from electric stovetop, but also just light. There's so many ways that this is going to be procured. So I can add that to my
your bowl. You're throwing it in there.
bowl.
Yeah. There's
Thank
so
you
many
for the words.
there's so many different ways that it can be destroyed, I think is what you mean, right?
I was also wondering if you could make tea through sound disruption.
I bet you it's possible. I bet
because
you it's possible.
You could
make
just
it with your mind. You could just be like, "Hey, tea, there is no spoon," and it's like, "Bam, you're done." But
all right.
Sound disruption, I think, is possible. I know it. Yeah, kind of, or at least through magnetic vibration and stuff like that too. Like
Yeah, because you could really procure the exact notes that you were trying to release through sound. It'd kind of be the way they do the cathode ray tube, where you'd through certain disturbances through a laser going through a gas, it'll permit a certain spectrum of light. You could also theoretically curate a certain spectrum of flavonoids from a tea.
You realize you're going to pass your test tomorrow. You just got to write that down.
It's Tuesday.
Okay.
How do I stir this? That's
you wanna empty your water that you've done on top of the matcha in the bowl.
okay.
Okay. You're gonna just I'm loading 90 grams of water for our viewers. I'm putting 90 grams of 65 degrees centigrade water on top of 2 grams of tea that I've sifted. Then we get to a similar point in this process. You have your bowl, you have your whisk. You're gonna take the whisk, you're gonna hold it like a pencil. It's gonna be between the ridge and the black band here. Helps to anchor the bowl with your other hand. And then perpendicular in the bowl. You're not beating eggs. You don't want an angle. Perpendicular in the bowl. You start drawing M's.
No, I already screwed it up because I added the matcha to the water.
It's
So I just wanted to recognize that, because that's the unfortunate thing about this being on a recorded device. I can't just
It's all
smile and
good.
nod through it. I'm gonna acknowledge that next time I won't do that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You
Are
know,
we speeding things up?
and then you're going faster and faster and faster and trying to build a froth. Try to spill if you can. You won't be able to because the bowl's so high, but you kind of have that intent, and that's what's going to allow you to introduce air. And it helps to do like a pendulum, like over top of the whisk. You see how you're holding the whisk? I did say like a pencil, but I meant over top, though, between the ridge and the black band. And then it helps to do this a pendulum. And then you just draw M's, then you whisk extremely fast in the middle, and then you start to slow down, lazier and lazier. And your goal really is 15 seconds of agitation. And that's for our viewers. That's what the matcha froth should look like. That's what you're going for, Ryan. And then about a centimeter of froth is your goal. You're not going to get it first time. Don't worry about it. Try and just whisk less. You don't want to go overboard trying to get that perfect froth. Keep it to just the 15 seconds.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's just admit it's not going to happen on my first time.
It's totally understandable, and it's all good. You know, there's some techniques also which always made me feel better when I was like trying to figure out how to make this darn thing froth. And that was that in Omote Senke, which is one of the 3 main disciplines of tea ceremony, they actually encourage you to work the matcha into the liquid rather than create a froth. So, you know, you could say that. You could just be like, I didn't create the froth on purpose. This is inspired by Omote Senke, you know what I'm saying? We can let's drink away. So you want to inhale here and get some nice aromatics. Are we smell? I always find it so interesting to taste. Can I smell things that were similar to what I cupped in the tencha? You know, so kind of go back and forth. Yeah, okay. You know, I kind of had this alcohol smell I was saying in the tencha. I'm not picking up on that in the matcha at all. It's a lot more grassy.
Yeah, this is more like a wild autumn wind. And this is more like when you go deep into like a cedar forest where things are being held down by the moisture and only the hummus is permeating.
There you go. Awesome. I love this imagery. I wish Sister Speak was on. She's all into this. She's like, that tastes like a really friendly hug. It's great. But yeah, no, I think that works. It's this you can taste the astringency a little bit more intensely, no?
I'm gonna go for the taste. I haven't even tried.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I think this is though in our cafe standard category for a reason. Is that I think this tastes better with a little bit more dilution, but should be good.
The matcha just almost rolls to the back of the tongue, like it's just so silky. Whereas, yeah, like I noticed that around the ridges of my tongue was this kind of. I guess it does show the imperfections a lot stronger. Like I just thought, well, you know, I can taste it. Yes, we've noticed the bitterness, but where it is and how it tantalizes my palate is very physical. Like it's not a hug or a a walk through the forest.
No, this is like a, I don't know, maybe it's just a very, very what is it, aggressive hug, but in a good way. I don't know.
But going back and forth, you can start to see where the refined matcha, where it lives in this. So I guess by going back and forth, you can start to feel where the kind of the harshness, what you're trying to isolate and prevent from ending up in your matcha.
Hmm.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. No, it allows you to make those decisions for sure. And I think that also what's interesting is that the lower temperature you go with your extraction, the more you're also able to curate less astringency. If you're finding that it's like way too much, or you can also increase your water volume, or you can decrease the dose of tea. If you're just finding that it's just not where you need it to be. And that actually gives you flexibility by reducing the amount of tea to increase your water temperature as well. So there's different ways that you can go about creating an ideal matcha for yourself. And we encourage this particular leveled off teaspoon because it's so easy for people. I think people really like the teaspoon because a lot
Where
of
did
people
that
have
come
it.
from, though?
Where did the teaspoon come from? It's a good question. I think that it comes from crimson tea, aka black tea making theory. 1 teaspoon per cup and one for the pot kind of idea. And I think that's just translated over into lots of other teas. I'm not a big fan of volumetrics. I used to use volume a lot for making tea and for making food, but I think that as sort of foreign and as much of a wall as it may seem, and many of us don't even have them in our houses, but like scales make all the difference in the world. Like they improve your baking, they improve your cooking, they improve like everything. Because when you start working with mass, it takes a lot of the it just really improves your ability to get consistency. So if you're like, oh, this pancake recipe, I really like it. I change up my flour. Maybe it was milled a little bit coarser or a little bit finer. If I'm using mass, then it's going to be the same mass every time, and it will let me really dial that in, and I'll get a way nicer pancakes, or cookies, or whatever it is that I'm baking, And with tea, it's just such a small amount that you can't really see the difference between, say, like a little bit more or less of a teaspoon, but it's going to have a really big impact on your enjoyment or your perceived sense of the strength of the
Or
tea.
just a huge error. It's going to be a large percentage,
Yes,
right?
exactly. The percentage of error is massively increased when we're talking about working with volume versus, but volume is way better than winging it, So like, but I say that from like a very empirical perspective. The idea that, and we've had people on the show that do this, where it's more like, how does my body feel today? How does your body feel today? And I can sort of perceive or use my intuition to adjust the water quantities, temperature, and tea so that I can pull out a flavor profile that I think is going to work better for you. And people that have been making tea for like 3 decades, Ryan, 4 decades, they're often absolutely able to create this experience for you where you're like, wow, yeah, that works for me today. And then the next day make you the same tea in a different way that works for you better that day. I find, though, it's really helpful for people that are just into a new genre of tea, or are working with new tea equipment that they've never worked with before. It just helps so much to have this empirical approach as sort of like a starting point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and where do you think you would like? It's say a beginner.
Yeah.
Not saying that I am a beginner.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm probably Padawan, a little bit below that.
No.
What would be the next thing you would augment? Would you augment the amount of the product, like whether it's a matcha or a loose leaf, or would you augment the temperatures in your procedure? Which would you recommend would be the least volatile to creating like a bitter notes and things like that?
I think in a matcha, your big role player is going to be definitely whether or not it's been stored properly. So once that's going to be your really critical part of the process. You can't get anywhere no matter what you do if the matcha hasn't been stored properly. It loses its aromatics. They start to disintegrate about 3 to 6 hours in poor storage. But if you at least put them in a cool, dark, dry place in a tight, sealed tin, or at least, if it's in that bag that's rolled really tight, then you got a good 3 weeks out of it in really ideal storage conditions. And then if it wasn't ever clipped open, then about 3 months before you start to taste a disintegration of the umami, where that brothiness starts to go away. It still tastes and smells good, but it doesn't have that rich background note at all. And then at 9 months, you start to really pick up on that old hay flavor that's really quintessential oxidized green tea. But then from there, if you know that you have a good tea, that you got it from a vendor or a tea merchant or a tea farmer that you feel good about, then temperature, to answer your question. Yeah, I think that's such a huge, but they kind of all intertwine with each other, right? Like your amount of water to amount of tea is one sort of one sort of variable, your temperature, and then your extraction time. And that's overlooked a lot in matcha, extraction time. I kept on focusing on 15 seconds because agitation is a form of extraction, right?
Absolutely.
So you want to sort of be aware of that and guide. It's actually interesting to taste a matcha that you've whisked for 30 seconds versus 15 seconds and just do sort of a side by side. And you can really taste so many different flavor compounds than you would otherwise. And if you prefer a more acidic, more harsher flavor, good on you. It's like use boiling water and whisk it for a minute. That's totally fine. A lot of it is about personal preference as well. But it's interesting to know that you could make it less harsh. You could make it less prone to hurt your stomach. Like if you are like sensitive to acid and you have a matcha with boiling water that you've whisked for a really long time, you're gonna probably make yourself feel really nauseous, right? So it's important to be aware of that at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and would that like be almost, so it's not just the umami collapse that would happen at a certain point where it's been catabolized, but there's a literally a structural change that you use the word acid. So are we talking just like a literal bitterness or the thing that would upset your stomach?
There's a lot of tannin in Camellia sinensis extractions, right? And so you are gonna get a really astringent feeling. So maybe I'm not using the word acid in its technical scientific form, but I think like in terms of flavor structure, I pick up on this really intense kind of, and I like to use the equivocation to battery acid, though I've never consumed battery acid.
So extreme too. That tea, you might as well be drinking battery acid.
I burned a hole through my cheek the other day because I brewed my tea too strong.
No, oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's I
had a Ryanism, like a very
let's go with
very like epiphany question. So we're talking about heat and we're talking about duration. How does icing tea, how does cooling tea, it's theoretically summer here, I mean it's quite overcast today, but like on hot days, what would it be inadvisable to under underheat the tea and then let it sit in a cool vessel for longer so that the time would start to do the extraction, like the water physically will start to take away even though it's cold?
You're talking about cold brew, and it is a thing. We really encourage it. It's beautiful in the summer. What's really interesting is that you can actually make, so we have these instructions on our business cards, but 40 grams of tea and 850 grams of water, basically in a 1 liter mason jar, if it fills it right to the top. Put it in the fridge overnight, and then the next day you strain it into a storage jar. Make sure it's lidded. And then you have a concentrate that you can cut, and you can cut it with 75% cold water and make a really nice iced tea that has no sugar in it. And you can also put hot water in it, and that's going to draw out some interesting acidity. That you would think wouldn't be possible. You'd think, oh, I strained out the tea. There's nothing left there for me to be able to draw out any sort of more like high notes in the flavor structure. But it's there, and especially if you put the hot water in and you let it sit for a moment, then it seems to interact with perhaps the volatile oils that are there, or maybe there's just some dissolved solids that you're working with.
Things that will be extracted and then attracted to each other again, and then at that point kind of act as a whole as opposed to dispersed.
Exactly. But when you do cold extractions, you're definitely focusing more on fruit, right? Like in terms of flavor profiles.
Okay, I was like,
that's what's coming out.
It's like we're
in your
supposed to add
teeth.
fruit.
Yeah.
It's like I've been doing it
you
wrong.
get-
Well, I've been doing it wrong because I make the hot tea.
Yeah.
I use that to draw out the flavor, and then I put it in the fridge for a few hours, come back. And obviously, maybe we could also just cut that part out where I admit I do that, and then
Yeah, let's go and edit.
we'll just
Well,
I'll go to the instructions.
there's the archive version of this show, and then there's the live stream, and we
Yeah.
can just definitely.
I'm kind of like Dudley. Don't just whatever Ryan does, try not to do. It's probably not going to harm you.
It's actually quite lovely. What I want you to do then is, while we're talking about this, why don't you grab your matcha and get a cold bowl, okay? And then what I want you to do is I want you to put in your teaspoon of matcha, and I want you to put cold water on it. And this is actually a summer matcha. You can actually float a single ice cube in it, and this process was taught to us by the fellow who makes our chasen. He recommended it. He's Mr. Kubo, 24th generation artisan, if you can believe it. Isn't that insane?
24th generation?
Yeah. Like, think about
That's
how many
incredible.
hundreds of years it's been in his family, this process of making the bamboo whisk.
And we're going to use cold water, hey?
We're going to use cold water. And so what cold water does is it also, you can put a little bit of cold water over your matcha, and that cushions it. So you can whisk in a little bit of cold water and then add fairly hot water afterwards, and it doesn't pull out the same level of intense astringency.
Watch me sneak out of the shot while you explain how cold the cold should be.
I just use tap water. My tap water is about 10 degrees centigrade. I don't really use a thermometer when I'm making it. I find that when I get under about 40 degrees, the temperature, it's just not extracting as much flavor. It's actually a way to make tea that's not that good taste really good, or extend your extraction time quite a bit and pull out just tons of richness and like really completely curate out that like any acidity. But this is I want to say something is that astringency and acid are a really important part of flavor structure. So when people get into wine, they're like, I don't want to have a wine that's completely bereft of any acidity. I don't want it to just be bold and sweet. That's kind of gross, right? So the same thing with tea. We think like acid and bitters are bad, but they're actually really important when they're in balance as a part of an ideal flavor structure. Does that make sense?
Well, absolutely. It's just like any kind of cooking. You want to have a balance of your acidity. Like you just don't want a pure anything. Everything has to kind of be a flavor combination. I mean, that's why the tongue is such a beautiful little tool for us to navigate through that with all the different kind of aspects that are going to pick up different notes.
100%. So you're whisking away, or you already did this? You're
I already did it.
You're ahead of the game.
I'm ahead of it.
Yeah, you are.
I wanted that forgiveness for doing it wrong all these years by just running to the tap, getting it in there.
Nice.
And getting that.
Awesome. You didn't even measure the amount of water you used. I'm proud of you, man. Did you whisk it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Little.
I might have missed that. It's just like
I did it wrong the third time.
The swirl method.
You can get a pretty good whisk with the.
Oh my goodness
See,
gracious! Yeah, that's hilarious. That's great. I like that. That's funny. So just like tea in mason jar, add cold water and whisk, and then maybe add more water as desired. That's actually a great method.
Yeah, it would be almost as good as like putting the mason jar lid on and giving it a good shook up.
Yes, yes. Actually, that is a method that we recommend. That was what I was gonna get Sister Speak to do when she was driving today, or at least when she's the passenger in a car that's driving. Keep saying that.
Yeah, you should probably let people know that.
Yeah.
She wasn't ending it. Just
woo! Shake, shake.
Or just the side of the highway with the rumble strips, just letting it kind of go.
Using vibration to extract. Oh,
exactly.
My goodness gracious. But what do you think? Isn't that interesting? I I find that very desirable.
It's interesting how much just the water itself will extract the flavor. Like it's not like quintessentially uh, up to the heat of the water to kind of mix up the flavor molecules. We end up with quite a bit of it just with the coolness of the water, but it changes it.
Mm-hmm. I'm always interested about this. Interested in this. I think that we fixate so much on needing heat that I've heard of a method of brewing tea that involves using sunshine, and I'm always like, okay, that's interesting because you'll get UV rays hitting it, and there's photo oxidation happening there that's going to really impact the tea, I think, in a negative way. But I think it's just this fixation that you need a little bit of warmth to bring out flavor, but you don't at all. Like you can actually have it really cold, like 3 degrees centigrade, in a fridge that's a really cold fridge, and you can just let it hang out in there for our kombucha. We actually make a cold brew concentrate that we put into the fermentation, and we do this by doing a 72-hour cold brew, and we actually feel that brings out so much more, like, again, fruit and aromatics, and that the fermentation delivers on the acidity. So we feel that we get way better balanced kombucha by doing a purposeful focus on the compounds that don't involve acid, and then combining them with the acidic fermentation to finish that flavor structure, right? So there's way you can work with this in desserts too. You can make like a really cold water to like reduce almost intensively down the acidity, and then you can put in some lemon. Like this would taste very good with some lemon and some simple syrup, and you could make yourself a cold lemon iced tea, right?
Have you ever experimented with not just water, like that? Because this is what I'm starting to think of. It's like the power of water. The water is a universal solvent, so you end up with water extracting just the tea, but only what the tea has to offer. Where when we're kind of talking about leaves, we understand that like the leaves do kind of come as a whole, and they pair up, and they travel differently across the tongue. So something that might be a bit more acidic, like a lemon water, or something sweeter, like a fruit water.
Yeah, we've done that. We've whisked it. You don't. It's gonna be hard on your whisk to get sort of other flavor compounds sort of getting in to the wood of the whisk. But if you just clean right away and you're not using something that's like horrible, like I've whisked the matcha in even peppermint tea, for example. Or like whisked it in orange juice and thrown on to some sparkling water. I did some fresh squeezed orange juice instead of water, and then I whisked it and I poured it on. If you put it on sparkling water, though, you're gonna immediately, oftentimes, cause a reaction where it overflows. I'm not sure if it does if you use cold water, though. No, I remember it happening, even when I did the cold orange juice. There's something in the matcha that makes carbonated water just like foam. So I don't know what that's all about. So drink it in a big glass.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, you can switch it up. You don't have to use water. Yeah, it's just that's the pure way to access the medicinal benefits of your matcha in a way that isn't being interfered with by anything else. Like, for example, the casein protein in milk has been proven to block your absorption of the antioxidants that are in green tea, so it makes it less healthful. You'll still get fatigue relief, you'll still get alertness, but you don't get everything that you could out of it because what you've mixed with it has interfered with your body's ability to absorb everything that the tea has to offer. Does that make sense?
And that's so interesting in itself, because that's I was thinking like, okay, we're talking about a tradition that's globally been around since we could boil water in a pot, right?
Yeah.
And it's wondering, it's like, how come the combinations haven't moved past that? And it just sounds like, well, it works. The water is best, and like you said, adding milk, adding some of these orange juice components don't necessarily up the game.
Well, I was talking about this in a previous episode, but there's a book called The Book of Tea. It's written by a Japanese fellow, and he likes to break up the history of tea into 3 different sort of ages. And the first age being the age of boiled tea, and that was when we were doing decoctions, and we were we were actually boiling the tea for a long time, and we were mixing in garlic and onions and butter and salt and all these things. And this is this is like 1500, 2000 years ago, and this is kind of the predecessor of chai. And then this fellow came along and he wrote the Cha King, and he's a Chinese fellow, and he said, you know what, we got to get rid of all these ingredients. We know we need to focus on the tea, and so I just want you to use tea and salt. He said he still needed salt, so he's almost there. And he started putting in salt, and then he was boiling that, and he had like the perfect moment where you're supposed to stop the boil and stuff like that. And then from there, that people started milling their tea and making a powdered tea, and we entered the world of whipped tea, which is the ancestor of matcha, right? And then the Mongolians came in and kind of took over in China and destroyed that tea culture. And then they sort of settled in and they created their own tea culture of steeping tea, which is how we drink tea today, which is really not that much older than 500 plus years. And so there's many different ways that we've interacted with tea over the millennia, and doesn't mean we need to be restricted by the era that we are currently in, which we're not when you think about it. We're drinking second era tea, you know, with our matcha here. I mean, in a very different, the Japanese took it and they were like, hey, you know, shade growing and just the young leaves and very careful everything, and it's a completely different beverage than you would have been drinking 600, 700 years ago. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
So where do you think tea is going then? Like, what do you think the next generation is going to be?
Where is tea? Oh, we're going to use sound waves, man. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, when you can literally sound and light, because we talk about it being the disruptors, like oxidation, these other molecules other than, you know, H2O. We're just talking about how oxygen starts to extract different things. Like, what other agents are going to provide us with a substance that comes from that plant that we could say is tea, but maybe, you know, like we're looking at salts and we're looking at things like that.
I want a Star Trek device, you know, the one where they press a button and it just like materializes. Yeah, that's what we need. That is the next generation of tea. It's gonna be
3D printing tea.
Yeah, it will be 3D printing tea. That's what, and it'll be consumable. It's gonna be amazing. You know, the next generation, I think we're in a world where we're combining and sort of intertwining history, and we're finding ways where we can like learn from our past and we can make some decisions moving forward. I think we're in it in that we are being so much more specific than I think we ever could be. We have these empirical tools at our disposal, scales being one of them, moisture measurers. You know, there's so many different things that we're able to do now to make things so interestingly consistent. That we can really experiment and really fine-tune processes in a way that I don't think that was possible before. So, yeah, I think it's a really exciting time, for sure. And on that note, we do need to close things out here, as the show is coming to an end. But I wanted to say, when Vivek and Neha come on, they're going to be coming on in 3 weeks, likely. They are going to be talking to us about the Doke estate. And it's just so interesting what Doke has done in India and Bihar, where they've, you know, made some process changes and they're weighing things and they're moving, you know, moving from. Oh, is that Sister Speak? Oh my goodness! As we're saying goodbye. Hello, hey. You're there.
Hey.
That's awesome. You made it on.
It's probably the end. I'm sorry. I finally made it on. I didn't have email access until right now.
Oh no. Okay. No. Fair enough. No, that's great. Well, hello. Sherry-Ann, this is Ryan. Ryan, Sherry-Ann.
Hey Ryan.
How you doing?
Oh good. Do you have any tips for the tea today? We're gonna make it. We can't make it on the show because we didn't have email access, but or access to the show quite yet until now. But we want to make it still. Do you have a tip for today?
Yeah, my tip is how to make it on the rough. You're gonna want your mason jar.
Okay, I've got that.
You got your mason jar. Do you got a teaspoon or something like that you're going to measure out the matcha with?
Yes, I have a teaspoon and I have hot water ready to go.
Hot water. We were going to do cold water.
Oh, I have cold water too. I got a big thing of it right here.
You've got it all. I mean, you're pretty much, you're going to end up achieving far greater than I did.
That's going to be awesome. It's going to be good. I think she even has a sieve. Do you have a sieve?
I have a sieve. Yeah, let me see. I clown car.
This is awesome.
Pull out the rabbit.
I even have a sieve. I
Wow.
even have a scale, but I don't really need that right now.
That's so awesome.
I finally found it.
That's great. She's been missing it for the last 3 or 4 episodes. That's awesome. Okay. The scale is in the car all along. Okay.
It's
Awesome.
in the travel bag. I have this big tea travel bag. Can you see it?
Oh, amazing.
Wow.
That's so cool.
I have
Okay.
mason jar, whisk, bowl.
Ryan, we've been sponsoring Sister Speaks tours for 6 years now with tea. And she's been bringing it all over the world and talking Jaga Silk. It's been really awesome. And
Alert, happy, and joyous.
there you go. So Ryan, why don't you tell her your method about making it in the mason jar with the whisk? I thought that was
Well,
brilliant.
see, that was the thing. I was thinking you should probably either hit the dirt road or the rumble strips,
Oh yeah.
and then that way, that's how you get your perfect agitation.
Just...
Wait, say that one more time. Sorry, I lost it for a second.
Oh no.
But for safety's sake, I was going to suggest, because of the temperature and because we're trying to make sure that you get the perfect brew for the road, we're just going to go with a cold one.
Yeah.
We're going to go for
Okay.
a just about teaspoon in your mason jar,
Okay.
and then we're going to
Am I
add.
doing this right now?
We're doing
Yeah,
this.
why not?
Yeah. Let's do it.
This is
Okay. I'm here.
Okay.
Let me grab the.
It's gonna be amazing. We were just saying goodbye, but I think this is a great reason to put the bye on hold for a moment. If you're cool, Ryan, sounds like you are.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if I was the person to go to for advice, but
No, I like this. This is great.
But if you're gonna be
I want
fluent
Ryan directing traffic right now. This is awesome. I
in
want
the least conventional space
yeah.
that
Okay.
you can find,
Oh,
then
yeah.
you're probably going to want to go. Yeah, this way we don't taint your knowledge base there, Jared. Nobody will say, like, how dare he? They're like, oh, the guy
no. Oh my.
who didn't stir his matcha properly, didn't get the froth.
No, remember, omote senke, Ryan. Omote senke. You were like, you get to throw that out there, and people will be like, oh, he must know what he's talking about. He's mentioned the discipline of the Japanese tea ceremony.
So we're making this one, right? The matcha Okumidori by
Yamaguchi.
Yamaguchi.
That's the one.
Okay.
That's the one we're going to enjoy together.
Did I bring a knife? This is the thing. You want a dull knife, right? I have a knife. Be careful.
Okay, yeah. Knives while
Never
driving. Slightly.
Not a good idea. It's very dull knife.
Okay, good.
Oh.
You get it open?
Yes, I'm not driving, by the way.
That's good. Yeah, I was explaining that to our viewers that she's not driving. Okay.
Can I make a double in this? This is a big mason jar.
What do you think?
You know
Ryan?
what? I think that well, what does your heart tell you?
Oh, well, my heart tells me that actually this will probably be the good size because it also has measurement on it.
Has which?
Measurements.
A measurement?
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, she's got the fancy ball jar.
The only hard part about this is the phone keeps jumping away.
That's awesome. We had this blank screen. I love this. This is so wild. Okay.
Okay, so I've got this. Normally I wouldn't have to hold the phone, so it'd be a little easier.
Okay.
But
So what's step one here, Ryan? Once you got that package open.
Oh, for hodgepodge cold brew.
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll call it.
Hodgepodge
It's gonna be called the Moen. We're gonna name it the Moen.
We'll always forgive our indiscretions, because all you're doing is it's like when you have a good dance partner, you know?
Yeah. There you go. Amazing. Okay.
So I think we got probably the same kind of Atlas mason jar with different ounces on it.
Yes, that's what I have.
So you put in a teaspoon of matcha at the bottom.
Okay.
Like directly into the jar.
Give it a little flickery do so that it's nice and level. It's hard to, because the stuff loves to just attract to itself. Hey.
I just want to step
Yeah,
in
it
here.
Sure does.
I really like the term flickery do. It's a great term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flickery too.
Yeah.
And then how much water?
Well, I'm gonna suggest what's your measurements? Is it millimeters or ounces?
Milliliters and ounces.
Ooh. Let's go for the 4 ounce. So if you go above or below, you're gonna
Okay.
be just right.
I'm gonna step in and say try to go a little below.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we. Is that still
Okay.
flickery do style? I don't know though.
That was the flickery do was the agitation on the spoon so that you got a little bit more level, because I know it's we don't want you holding the knife anymore. So you put the lid on.
put the knife
Oh.
down.
The knife is put away. Don't worry. It's in the back seat.
Okay. Excellent. Oh, look at that. Isn't that amazing? I love him whisking in the jar. Sharian, you're now doing it too. This is so funny.
You want me to whisk in the jar?
Oh, sorry. Isn't that what you were doing?
No, I have a wooden spoon.
Oh, I gave it away. Sorry. Okay, Ryan, you go ahead.
Neither way you
Okay.
can. So that's the thing. You can get that. You have your whisk.
Yeah.
Get it in there, or is it
Okay.
gonna be too tall?
No.
And give it a whoosh whoosh.
All right. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. And whoosh, whoosh,
And we'll count you down. You know, we kind of I'm doing a silent count because that's a pretty obnoxious to do into a microphone. So with a cold, it's going to be less volatile, so it's going to be less important to hit that 15 seconds as opposed to, you know,
Okay.
like a hot brew, which is going to start to bring out the bitter notes. So that's why we always recommend when you're road tripping with your musical ensemble to do cold brew in a car on a phone.
With a dull knife.
So we feel like it's dissolved,
Yeah. It's looking pretty
or
good.
we should say married. It feels like it's married.
Yeah, it's married.
Okay.
All right, so then we'll drink together.
Cheers.
Cheers. Gross.
Okay. Prost.
Oh, wow.
Bye.
That's some strong cold brew.
Isn't that yum?
It's delish. I might need to water mine down a bit, though. I might have put a little bit more than a teaspoon.
Okay. And this is why we love scales. But it's all good.
Should I put a little more water in?
You can add a little more water. Dilution is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Let me try it.
Okay.
I think I might have done a little more than a teaspoon. Now I'm going to start talking really fast if I have too much into it. That's why.
I was gonna tell the audience that I was telling the audience that Yamaguchi is a new selection. So you
Oh,
guys are
that's
tasting brand new tea for Jaga Silk. So, yeah.
This is good now. I just
Where
started
do you taste
diluting
it on your
down.
tongue?
What's that?
Where do you taste it on the tongue? On the tip, on the sides, on the back?
In the center.
In the center.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I was feeling too.
Yeah, really?
And what kind of season would you say it reminds you of?
A little bit of asparagus.
Well, season like the year,
Oh, well, that's my favorite season, but
asparagus season.
yeah.
What are you
Isn't
thinking?
that summer?
You think it's summer? Okay. All right. There we go. So we had fall earlier. And I was saying, I think that Sister Speak could identify with attributing time of year to the flavor. So yeah.
I'd say late summer or early fall.
Okay.
Just as the
Asparagus season.
the days are getting shorter, but we're still savoring it. I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. We were just telling everybody also about the tea festival, Sharian, that it's going to be rescheduled
Yes.
to the 23rd of November. There's going to be 24 hours of absolute tea symposium insanity, and we're going to have tons of fun just bringing on different industry folks and farmers from around the world, and gonna have a blast. And yeah, hoping to see everybody there. But okay. Awesome to have made some tea with you, Sharian. Awesome to have had you on the show, Ryan. Did you want to
Thank
say
you.
maybe some final words before we head off the air here?
Yeah, I just want everybody to know that they're welcome to contact us on Facebook if they have any questions about the tea festival. Look that up as fast as possible, and we will get back to you fast as possible, especially when we just consumed two glasses of matcha.
plus the tencha. We will be working very
Yeah.
quickly. We have so much energy, we don't even know what to do with ourselves. Exactly. Cool. All right, and then Sharian, I know you're just joined us, but if you wanted to say maybe tell the viewers a little bit about Sister Speak and whatever you would like to say at the end here.
Yeah, I'm really stoked for November 23rd. That's gonna be awesome. I'm making a matcha for my common law partner.
Nice. Okay. And
Who's driving right now, and Just Thursdays, patreon.com/sisterspeak is a special live stream every week. Even did it during travels today. That was tough to get that timing in right, but I'm just whisking right now as I'm talking. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And then we're gonna have a fun fall on the island.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, Sister Speak's gonna be spending some time on the island here, so it's been good times. Thank you for coming on the show. You can check out Ryan and our viewers. Sister Speak just released a new live album, Live at the Belly Up. Tons of fun. If you go to sisterspeakmusic.com, you can check it out there. You can also write her, or I believe you buy the album from the website, or do they need to email you, or what's the best way if they want to check out your third album there?
Website, sisterspeakmusic.com/shop.
Shop. Amazing.
sisterspeakmusic.com/shop.
Cool. Okay. Lovely to hear. And then if you guys want to go check out at Victoria Tea Fest Revival. That's the Instagram for the Tea Festival Revival. And also if you want to check it out on Facebook, there'll be information posted there. Thank you to you both for coming on the show. Huge appreciation. Had way too much fun today, Ryan. You're a riot. So looking forward to co-hosting the Victoria Tea Festival Revival with you on November 23rd.
Me too.
Awesome.
See you then.
Okay. Peace, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Peace.
Okay. Okay. So thank you to our viewers for coming on for watching. We had a lot of fun today with Ryan Moen from the Victoria Tea Festival Revival. We made some tea by Yamaguchi, a wonderful farmer that we just started working with. It was a really nice selection. It was definitely in our cafe standard category, so this is going to be a lower priced tea. It does taste a little better to be slightly more diluted than say like Okumidori by Fujioka, where it's more of a competition grade matcha. But what's really nice about this is he's really worked hard to ensure that he's producing this kind of flavor profile without the use of any sprays. So I'm a big believer in spray free, and that's where we want to be as much as we possibly can. Now, if you can check out the web store when you feel like you want to grab this tea, go to jagasilk.com/shop, and you can figure it out there. There's lots of different options for you. This particular selection should make its way onto the webpage by this time next week. So looking forward to having you try it. And if you're watching the archived version of the show, maybe you can even drink it with us. Looking forward to also having you come join us again next week. We'll be on at 1 p.m. Thursday. We're gonna have Beej on here from one of the people who started Desert Bus, a charity that JagaSilk always does tea sponsoring for. They've raised millions of dollars for children's hospital toys for a charity called Child's Play. You should go check out Desert Bus. They're amazing. And then the week after that, we should have John, the owner of Picnic Coffee here in town. He's one of our oldest customers. We're going to be making some drinks with him. And then the week after that, we plan on having Neha, one of the farmers, and potentially her brother, who own the Doak estate in Bihar, India, joining us live from India. So lots of fun stuff happening. Looking forward to having you on every week. And you take care. We'll see you again next week. Check out jagasilk.com. I'm Jared Nyberg, JagaSilk. Looking forward to seeing you again. Take care.